Blog Talk Radio.
The purple angel, oh purple angel, you're next to me. Purple angel, oh purple angel, you're next to me. You're next to me. You're next to me.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm Lori LeBay, and the host and founder of the radio show and Alzheimer Speaks resource website. For those of you that are new to our show, I want to welcome you and let you know that we do these shows typically every Tuesday morning, and they are all podcasts, so they're all recorded, and you can access them anytime. We've been on the air now almost 4 years, so we've had a variety of people. Alzheimer Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. And we believe that by joining forces and sharing knowledge and just having these everyday conversations about life with dementia, that we're going to be able to remove the fear and the isolation that exists for people dealing with the disease. Together we can help everyone understand the true needs and just let everyone live a better life, more purpose-filled and fun life with a diagnosis of dementia. Collaboratively, we know that we can win this battle, and we know that we're having a huge impact because we were honored to be named the #1 influencer regarding Alzheimer's according to ShareCare and Dr. Oz. We got that recognition of being the #1 influencer online, which was just absolutely an incredible feat. And we didn't do that alone by any stretch. That was all because of you. Your likes, your shares, your clicks have just made a huge, huge difference and really helped push information out. You see, so many times people in our own families, our circles of friends, it might be Facebook, it might be our real friends that we see face to face, it might be our Google circles or our LinkedIn colleagues. Everyone out there is dealing with this disease, but few are really talking about it. And so the more information we can push out, the more comfortable we're going to make people feel that it's okay to have the conversation and to really start engaging in gaining knowledge and sharing insights, which is, to me, the only way that we are going to be able to really beat this disease. So before I start the show formally here and introduce our guest, Cameron Camp, I want to give a reminder that tomorrow on July 8th at 6:30 p.m., Dr. James Donahue of the New England Clinical Trials will be giving a presentation on Alzheimer's disease and clinical trials at the Ocean View Retirement Community in Falmouth, Maine. And refreshments and tours of the Legacy Memory Care will follow the presentation. It's free, but space is limited, so you're still going to want to RSVP at www.oceanviewrc.com/RSVP. Again, that's www.oceanviewrc.com/RSVP, or just call 201-781-4460. That's 201-781-4460. Couple other things I want to do some announcements on is the Purple Angel campaign, which is the global symbol for dementia. There's a Kickstarter program out. You can find that on our homepage at alzheimerspeaks.com. And they are trying to raise funds to finish filming the documentary to feature what's happening here in the U.S. with that. The Purple Angel is now in over 17 different countries, and it's just pretty amazing, this whole project. So we would love your support with that. Again, just go to alzheimerspeaks.com, and you can listen to the roundtable conversation about it, and then right underneath there is a video you can go to that'll tell you a little bit more about it, and then the levels of entry for that. Want to give a big shout out to HealthStar Home Health here in Minnesota. They're revving up to go out to our state fair here the end of summer, where they're once again going to do memory screenings. Last year they did over 2,200 memory screenings and met with over 14,000 people. And they're going to be doing that again this year, along with a big surprise, which I can't announce yet, but it's going to be pretty exciting, a new launch program. If you're looking for information on global research and kind of what's going on in the world as far as Alzheimer's disease, go to Alzheimer's Disease International. There you can also find your closest association anywhere around the world. If you're someone who likes a more holistic approach, check out the Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation. There you'll find information on diet and exercise and meditation. Many are also dealing with specific types of dementia like Lewy body or frontal temporal lobe dementia, and each of those has their own national association. So go there to really find specifics regarding the symptoms that you're dealing with. Others I always like to mention are dealing maybe with some speech problems, and the National Aphasia Association can help there. And aphasia is spelled A-P-H-A-S-I-A. That's A-P-H-A-S-I-A. Last, I want to thank anyone who helped with the Dementia Action Alliance survey. We had 2 that were out that closed on June 26th, but we had one survey for those living with dementia and another one for care partners. We had a great result on that, and looking forward to seeing what we can do once we pull all of that information together. So, with no further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our guest today. Thrilled to have him back with us. It's a nice guy who's doing some great work. His name is Cameron J. Kemp, and he's a PhD, and he also is a psychologist who currently serves as the Director of Research for the Center for Applied Research in Dementia. Dr. Kemp gives workshops on designing cognitive and behavioral interventions for dementia on an international level. And his research has been funded by grants from the National Institute of Health and the National Alzheimer's Association. So welcome, Cameron. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much.
Well, it's so fun to have you back with us. I had to laugh because I looked back at my records and it was like, gosh, it was just about a year ago you were on with us, and I just thought,
that's
that's kind of funny, but that's great. You had sent me a video that you had done on YouTube called the Alzheimer Syndrome, and I just found it fascinating. And I'm wondering if you can share with people, what made you decide to make this video, and then tell people a little bit about it.
Right. Well, the video is the Alzheimer Syndrome, as you mentioned, and you can see it by going to our website, which is www.CEN, that's Charles Edward Nancy, the number 4, ARD.com. And it's a thought piece. It is designed to get people to look at the assumptions that are made and the perspectives that people have about Alzheimer's disease, about dementia in general. And so it asks this question: what would happen if, as a society, we treated Alzheimer's disease the way we treat Down syndrome? What if we worked at inclusion of persons with dementia into society? What if there was the application of the Americans with Disabilities Act to persons with dementia? It asks questions about, for instance, if you have issues with mobility, we have ramps to enable people to get into buildings. So where are the cognitive ramps to enable persons with memory impairment to be able to function more effectively within society? And then it asks the other side of the coin question. What would happen if we treated Down syndrome as we treat Alzheimer's disease? What if we called it Down's disease rather than Down syndrome? What if the primary way of treating or working with Down's disease was pharmacological? What if there was stigma still attached to a person with Down's disease in this case? What if they were excluded from society, no Special Olympics? And so the purpose of the video is to get us to think very strongly about our assumptions about what comes with the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, and to think about what our priorities should be in terms of a society. I remember talking with a woman who's a very strong advocate for persons with dementia from Australia, and she said, when I got my diagnosis, I was basically written a prescription for disengagement from society and told by my neurologist, here are the things that you won't be able to do anymore. And I told him to go to bloody hell. And I looked at her and I said, good on you, mate. And that's the point, that we need to start thinking in terms of inclusion. We need to start questioning the assumptions that have been placed on what a person with dementia can and cannot do. You were mentioning at the opening of the show about fear and isolation. These things come because of the way people think. They are not part and parcel of having the diagnosis of dementia. And so the idea is to start getting people to think different about dementia, about what it means, about the place of persons with dementia in society. And so it's a thought piece. It's designed to get people to step back and to look at their perspectives. I mean, Lori, have you ever heard of a single person with a diagnosis of dementia who has invoked the Americans with Disabilities Act?
No, I can't say.
I can't either. I've never heard of anyone, and yet you know, when you ask people who are involved with disability programs, they say, well, of course, you know, a person with a disease is also, you know, protected, and yet as a society, you know, we've never really connected those dots before, and so. I've been pushing, and other people in the UK, elsewhere, have been pushing concept of thinking of Alzheimer's disease as a disability. And you know, when you start thinking of it as a disability rather than as a disease, it shifts the entire mindset. It shifts the entire set of assumptions about what we should do, how we should treat people. I was involved with a project, a grant project recently, where we were doing a study funded by the National Institute on Aging, looking at how to create signage for persons with dementia in nursing homes to enable them to be able to more effectively, independently navigate their way through their environments. And one of the first things we came across was, you know, the Americans with Disabilities Act codes for signage and height and size, and yet the dots have not been really connected out there. And so it would be a really interesting thing if we started looking for cognitive ramps. You know, as you know, there are dementia-friendly communities out in the world. In Bruges and Belgium, for instance, in shop windows, there's a sign in many shops that is a handkerchief with a knot tied in. and the classic, thing to help you remember. But if the shop has that sign in the window, it says to customers, our staff have been trained to work with people with memory impairments. And they are a dementia-friendly community. Dementia-friendly communities are starting to crop up around the world, in Europe, Australia. There's some attempts to create those in the United States. So the video is designed to kind of push some of those ideas forward. It's designed to get people to think in terms of dementia as disability rather than strictly as a disease. And when we do that, when we treat people with dementia as having a disability, then it's our job to work at how to include them in society, how to enable them to be successful, how to enable them to circumvent deficits and disabilities, and to have meaningful, purposeful roles in our lives and in the lives of the community.
Definitely so. Definitely so. You had mentioned the dementia-friendly communities, which I go around and speak quite a bit around the country, and there's a lot popping up. There's a lot of communities here in the U.S. that are getting on board, and the Purple Angel Project, I think, has really helped with that, which is kind of this new symbol. To be inclusive of all types of dementias. In fact, in Watertown, in Wisconsin, I was lucky enough to be part of that group, and that was the first one here in the U.S. And it's been fun to watch that grow. But so much needs to change. And when you're talking about this Alzheimer syndrome, the inclusion versus exclusion is huge. I mean, that's just a huge piece of the pie that people really have to understand and embrace if this is really going to work. I'm going to just pull in a caller here. We've got Harry Urban on the line, and Harry is living with the disease, and my guess is, hi, Harry, how are you doing today?
Hi, Lori, how are you?
Very good. I just wanted to pull you into the conversation because my guess is this is probably going to be a pretty interesting conversation for you in terms of how people view dementia as a whole. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the video that Cameron has done or not, called the Alzheimer Syndrome. Have you had a chance to look at that at all?
No, unfortunately I have not. But what Cameron said is he said it in a different way that a light bulb went up in my head. And what he said is what we are trying to advocate for. We are trying to advocate for a better quality of life. And a lot of money is being spent on research, and rightly so, but we have to find ways to make life easier for us. And some of the things, I'm just anxious to hear, a little bit more of this conversation. But I think ways have to be thinking of us as handicap is. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but my thoughts are that that's what I'm advocating for. I'm advocating for a better quality of life for us.
Mhm. Well, good. Well, let me. I'm going to pull Cameron back on here again. Cameron, you heard what Harry said, that he's a light bulb kind of went off in his head from what you said. He's not quite sure how he feels about being called, disabled basically or handicapped, but yet if it helps the cause and helps people live a better quality of life, maybe it's something that needs to be discussed. I mean, people are going for disability. They're trying to apply for disability funds and support, which is no easy task at all when it comes to this disease. And a lot of times they have to go through the process 3 times before they are deemed disabled, even though they can't hold a job. Because people like Harry are very social and very well connected, and many can still speak great and interact, but yet they have difficulty with other types of tasks that are kind of hidden. People don't see those in everyday conversations and things.
And I think he's exactly on point when he says that quality of life is really the central issue. And that's what ultimately all of these efforts are about, is how to look at the quality of life of a person who has a diagnosis of dementia. It is about enabling a person to be able to live well with dementia. There was an AARP conference in December of 2014, I believe, and its title was "Living Well with Dementia." And the idea was, once again, how can we look at enabling the person to have meaningful social roles, reason to wake up in the morning, a way to contribute, despite the fact that they may have this diagnosis. It's about connecting with the person in the person with dementia. And in our trainings, we always say that a person with dementia is a normal person who has some cognitive deficits. And so if you can enable the person to circumvent the deficits, if you can provide ways to enable them to use their strengths and to not have to use capabilities that have been impaired, what you have then is a normal person. And it's a process that Maria Montessori called normalization, to enable a person to use their strengths so that they have a role in society, a reason to wake up in the morning, and a good quality of life. So he's exactly on point with that. It's interesting that in October I'm supposed to give a presentation on persons with adult disabilities, adult developmental disabilities. I have a daughter who fits that category, who lives with us. And there's a speaker on the program ahead of me talking about the use of memantine, which is a drug used mainly for persons with more advanced dementia. Use of memantine for persons with Down syndrome. And so, as part of the video, we asked the question: what if we looked at a medicalization of Down's syndrome? What if we began to look at pharmacology as a primary means of trying to work with these people? I had thought it relatively hypothetical at the time, because apparently it's not. So once again, it's all about focusing on quality of life rather than treatment of symptoms of disease as the primary way of working with the person.
Mhm. Yeah, and it is a huge difference. I mean, when using Down syndrome to compare it to is perfect, because the bridges that have been built and the acceptance and the Special Olympics. I mean, I remember being involved in that. I worked for 10 years with the developmentally disabled, and the volunteers that would come forward and the fun that was had and the empowerment that was given those individuals was quite amazing, and is amazing, to this day. And I had people who lived in apartments, and the whole goal was to empower them, to give them as much independence as possible. I mean, that was the number one goal, and we seem to be forgetting about that when someone gets diagnosed with a disease. And I guess I've known that, and I've seen that, and like Harry, I've used different words for it, but I've always said that our perceptions need to change. And I think the video, I encourage everybody to watch this video called The Alzheimer Syndrome, because it will get you thinking on how do you perceive things, how do you react to things, what is your goal, what can you change, to do things differently. I think it'll have a big impact on people.
Yeah, I've been in a couple of airports recently, and there's some big posters there. The program, I believe it's called Best Buddies, but it shows famous individuals, athletes, and they're with a person with a developmental disability, and they're talking about how they're friends and how they interact with each other. Is there anything like that comparable for a person, for persons with dementia that talks about interacting with them as persons? We've seen persons with developmental disability on television shows in the past and play major roles. And, where are the public service announcements saying, I'm a person with dementia and I still have a lot to contribute? I'm a person with dementia and I want a reason to wake up in the morning.
Yep.
When we begin to see those things, then we'll know we're starting to make some real progress in terms of quality of life as a central tenet, as a central focus for working with persons with dementia. So that's again, that's the goal of this video, is to get people thinking about why don't we have those things.
Harry, any thoughts?
So many. Where do I begin at? It's funny when we talk about dementia friendly, that everybody has their own idea what dementia friendly means, and I'm amazed that not many people living with this disease are being asked the question, what does dementia friendly mean to you? As an example, now the U.S. Open is here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and it's starting this week, and it got me thinking that people living with dementia love playing golf, but is it possible for them to play golf? Now, I'm not saying it's possible for them to hit the ball straight and things like that, but I'm saying, is golf courses dementia friendly? Could they get around without getting lost? Things like that. There's so many little things that we can add to the dementia friendly list that nobody thinks about, and at this time we think that maybe the viewpoint of being handicapped is the way to go.
It's interesting. We have a number of mantras that we teach when we do our trainings, especially when we talk about resident-driven communities and enabling persons with dementia to be heard. One of the mantras is ask the person. And we really advocate bringing the person with dementia into the conversation and letting their decisions be a strong and guiding force. For example, there's a nursing home in Switzerland with memory units, and they've begun asking residents, where do you want to go on outings? And I have a video actually that I just got of a skiing outing for their residents with dementia. There's a nursing home in Avignon, France, with a memory unit, and they recently decided they wanted to put on a musical called Tell Me About Love, which is really amazing to watch. They put it on in the central theater of the town of Avignon. One of the residents there was asked, what do you want to learn? And she said, I'd like to learn to play the piano so that I can contribute to the musical. And we have some really interesting video from there of the woman playing melody while another person plays the chords. My wife and I were in Switzerland last month, and we met residents who decided that they wanted to learn how to speak English. And another resident who was multilingual began to give them English lessons, and they read a welcoming speech to us in English, and thanked us for coming and for advocating for their rights. And so the whole idea of asking the person with dementia, so what is it that you want? What would be easier for you or possible for you? What are the challenges that you have in playing golf? And let's look at how we can circumvent them so that you can still enjoy the game. That is a central primary task if we really do want to provide good quality of life. Your caller is absolutely correct in that lots of people have ideas about what it's like to create a dementia-friendly community. The best ideas are going to come from persons with dementia. And also, if something is tried, you need to get the feedback from the persons with dementia. Did it work? Does it need to be modified? Because, they're what this is all about. We sometimes, oddly enough, work very hard for advocating for people with dementia without bringing them into the conversation. So my head is off to Harry because he's really nailed it once again.
Yeah, it is so critical that their voice be raised and be heard. And, there are still so many organizations and groups out there that are pulling people together and not pulling in that immediate voice, the one living with the disease. And, it's amazing how those that are, supposedly fighting for this cause aren't engaging that voice. Because I have learned so much. Harry is one of our experts on our dementia chats that we do, twice a month. And every single time I am just amazed at what I learn from them. Yes. And the conversations that they allow us to have that we could not have without them. And they're absolutely brilliant. And ease the process, too, in terms of what is it that we're really trying to do. I mean, they get to the nitty-gritty of things so quickly and explain it. Harry has just a phenomenal way of explaining experiences, too, that, just has the bells ringing in everybody's head going, well, why didn't I get that before? Or gosh, now I get that. Now I get that. Thank you so much. And so very, very important. I think, again, it's so important to push this inclusion versus exclusion. And, the ramps, like you said, for mobility, where are the cognitive ramps? How are we allowing people, how are we building those bridges and allowing them to really live purposeful? Harry had mentioned about golfing, will they get lost? And, maybe they don't go by themselves. Golf is usually a game you play with somebody else, and they partner up. And but I know many times people get fearful, and they're not sure that they still want to do what they used to do with a friend who now has dementia. And, we really have to remove that fear and get people back to the core of relationships. Right. What's going on and what do they really want in life? It's just so, so important. Can you tell us what type of response you've been getting from others who have seen your video?
It's interesting. The vast majority have been relatively positive. They've said that it's encouraging people to think differently and to think about new perspectives, that sort of thing. Some people have said, well, of course Alzheimer's disease is a disease. And I think to some extent they're kind of missing the point of the video. It's about thinking along different lines. And some people say, well, of course, disease is covered in the American Disabilities Act, but I think the reality is that you're not really seeing those dots connected in terms of people with dementia thinking about how they might be covered under this. And so I think for the most part, we've had a few negative comments, but I don't know whether they're really looking at the true purpose of the video. But for the most part, I think we've sort of accomplished what we wanted, and people are starting to think differently. And again, I'm very encouraged by Harry's take on this and his immediate grasp that the central point is quality of life. I can give you some examples of what happens when you ask persons with dementia, what they would like to do. For example, in Bend, Oregon, there's a residence, and there you have residents with dementia who are engaged in beer making and in coffee roasting and in dog training, where they train puppies from like a rescue shelter, sit, stay, roll over. And of course, a trained puppy is more likely to be able to be adopted. They're also making lotions and soaps from local ingredients. They've started up their own corporation, and they're going to donate the proceeds of sales to charity. Here in Cleveland, where I live in the greater Cleveland area, there's a residence where very recently a group has decided to create natural ingredient dishwasher soap. So they put together squares by hand, and then their goal is to be able to sell these and to use the money to be able to buy a therapeutic pet for the residents. And another residence here in the Cleveland area, there's an outings committee, and the committee decided to go on a burger bar tour of Cleveland. And so they're going to all these different burger joints and writing the reviews, and it's what they wanted to do. And so what's really amazing to me is that you start including the person with dementia in the decision-making process. You're always in for surprises, and they're usually pretty amazing surprises as well. When we do our trainings, we usually like to end each module with a slide that says giving up control. And it's all about giving control of lives back to the person with dementia, to give them the choice to basically treat the person the way we would want to be, treated.
One thing I was thinking of when you were talking about how people were reacting, to the film, to your video, and you said, some said, well, Alzheimer's is a disease, so, it can't be a syndrome. Maybe even just changing the name to the Dementia Syndrome, because dementia really isn't a disease, it's a set of symptoms. And you could almost educate people double wide on that. Though I can see where Alzheimer's is kind of the key word that still most of society, thinks everything is Alzheimer's disease.
Right.
But I'm hearing the word, and Harry, I don't know if you are too, but I'm hearing people refer to the word dementia much more so than they used to. Out there versus everything just being called Alzheimer's. Harry, are you hearing that as well?
Well, it's funny that you brought that up, Lloyd, because here in my area, they are trying to do away with the word dementia
Mm-hmm.
because they say it's demeaning to us. But I don't know. One thing I did want to bring up is when I have a doctor appointment, every visit he asks me, "What did you learn new?" Okay, he keeps telling me that I should learn new things. Now, I was diagnosed with dementia, probably Alzheimer's, 11 years ago. Okay, and so many people say, "Well, Harry, you must have been misdiagnosed because you're doing so well." Now, what they don't consider is I can no longer drive because I'm unsafe. I can no longer do my finances because I can't figure out money. I forget my grandchildren's names. I can't walk around the block without getting lost. But they don't consider those things. What they do see is my public image, that somebody with Alzheimer's shouldn't be able to do the things I do, because their conception is that anybody with dementia is in the late stages. And that's one of the things that we have to fight so much. And I get that from my doctor when he keeps telling me, "Harry, what did you learn new?" You know, he keeps pushing me to learn new things.
Right.
And I think that's helping me so much.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's very true. The idea that when you get a diagnosis of dementia, you cannot learn anything new is simply false. There are ways to learn new things that are easier, but the capacity to learn new things is there. You know, just like people learning how to train, puppies, and learning how to play the piano, learning English, and so it's about using this time as an opportunity sometimes to be able to take the time to learn things that you may not have had the opportunity to in the past, to focus on learning things that are meaningful to you, and to do so in a way that you can contribute to your life and to the lives of others. And so it's really weird. Harry again hits on an interesting thing. People say, persons with dementia can't learn new things. Well, I learn new things. Well, then you must not have dementia. That has to change. Okay, that has to change. And I think, listening to Harry is a very strong testimony to the fact that persons with dementia still have capacities, even though it may be more challenging for them to do things like, as he was saying, drive, or to remember names. If the grandchildren wear name tags with their names, he can still name them. It's a way of getting around the memory deficit. He can go with other people to places. You were talking about, not golfing by yourself. And so how can we come up with the cognitive ramps? How can we come up with the ways to be a society of inclusion rather than exclusion? That's where this is all pointing to. This is what we're all advocating for.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true, and very much needed. In this whole process. Have you? Can I ask Cameron? Have you learned anything new since the video was released in terms of people's perceptions or views with the disease at all that have maybe triggered what you're going to do next? Yeah,
well, I mentioned before learning that there's work now to use some of the drugs to treat symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, to work with those in Down syndrome populations. I'll be monitoring that very, very closely in the future. I learned that people can sometimes have thin skins if their assumptions are questioned, but sometimes it's just important to question assumptions and to try to push hard to shift perspectives. Most of the work that I do involves motivating people to try new things and to try to enable them to think differently. And so, that's what we're all about. For the future, in May and June, I was able to be a visiting scholar in the south of France at Montpellier University, and we are going to be working on creating a different kind of assessment for dementia that will focus on capabilities rather than deficits, and that will be designed to enable the person to demonstrate what capacities remain, what their personal interests are, and then how to combine those two to suggest new things to learn, new things to try, ways to engage an individual in meaningful activity. So rather than an assessment that's designed to tick off the deficits that you have and to try to give you a staging in terms of where you are in dementia, this assessment will be designed to enable people to come up with ways to have better quality of life. So that's going to be unrolling over the next couple of years. We'll be doing some validation work with that there. It's interesting, in France, every nursing home has to have a psychologist at least 25 to 30% of the time on staff. So we have a natural group of people who can do data gathering on a large scale. And then in Switzerland, in December, we're going to have the first German language training that we do. The Swiss-German area will be in Bern. In November in Houston, we're going to have a bilingual English and Spanish training for the first time in this country on our approaches to Montessori-based approaches to working with persons with dementia, which is one of our highlights. And then our book, Hiding the Stranger in the Mirror, has just been translated into German and into Spanish. And so we're going to be looking at making those available through ebooks. And we have a publisher in Switzerland for the German language version of the book. So we're trying to expand on a large scale. And then later this month, actually, I'm going to get a chance to talk to the AARP Public Policy Group on dementia and on resident-driven communities, and basically on the topics that we've been discussing today. I hope to show them the Alzheimer Syndrome video and see if we can have an influence in terms of that organization's policies towards persons with dementia as well. So there are a lot of things in the pipeline, and it's getting to be an exciting time here.
Oh, very much so. Now, you had mentioned your book, Hiding the Stranger in the Mirror, and people can get that book at your website, which is www.CEN4ARD.com. That's CEN4 and then ARD.com. Great book, really interesting. And then from there they can also see the video as well. And you've got some other videos online here too for people and different resources for people to be able to tap into. So, yeah. Harry, I just wanted to see if there were any other comments that you wanted to make at all.
Yeah, I'd like to bring one other thing up. I believe care partners are guilty of handicapping us. Now, why I say that is because they do too much for us. They don't like to see us struggle to do things like that. So we tend to lose a lot of those skills and rely on them to do it for us. Now, with being my wife, if I'm doing something and I'm struggling with it, as long as I'm not getting frustrated, she will let me struggle with it because she knows I'm processing in my head how to get it done. Now, if it's a task that maybe that you're getting frustrated doing, then she will stop me from doing it. But if I fail at something today, let me try it tomorrow. Let me try it at a later time because I may be able to do it then. You know, don't let me give up. That's the thing. That's the thing that we have to. That's the point that I always I make to people is don't give up. Just because you think you can't do something, it might be that at the time you can't do it, but perhaps later you can.
Mhm.
Yeah, Harry makes two very, very important points that I'd like to follow up on. The first involves the topic that we addressed by quoting, once again, Maria Montessori, who was the Italian educator of the last century. But she said, everything that you do for me, you take away from me. And that's really what we advocate when we do our training. How can we enable a person with dementia to do as much for themselves as possible? Because as he was saying, it's very easy out of the very best of intentions to try to do everything for an individual. And it's very easy for that person then to slip into the role where they become very dependent on the person to do everything for them. And so his example is I think, a very, very, very good example. And this is for both family members and professional caregivers. So it's about how can we enable a person with dementia to do as much for themselves as possible. Montessori also said, when they do not know we are present, that is when we've done the best job. And so what she's saying is when we enable people to be as independent as possible, that's when we are doing our best work as caregivers. So it's a paradigm shifting, assumption challenging way of thinking, but I think Harry nailed it in terms of his example. And then the second thing is a lot of times you'll hear that it's important to give a person with dementia tasks that are failure free, where they cannot fail. And once again, what he's saying is, sometimes I'm not going to succeed, and that's okay. And I need to know that I can, if I do have a problem and can't succeed, that I might be able to do it later, but give me the opportunity to fail and the opportunity to succeed later, the opportunity to struggle. And once again, with the very best of intentions, you can set up a world, set up an environment where that is failure-free, but it's not the same kind of world that people live in for the most part, and also, the sense of accomplishment when you're able to succeed after struggling is something that is taken away if there's no opportunity to fail. So these are very different ways of thinking. These are ways of thinking that challenge a lot of assumptions, but the fact that you're hearing this from Harry and not from me initially is, I think, very telling. And once again, an important message to get out there.
I so agree. Any other comments that you'd like to make, Harry?
No, that's about it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, sounds good. Any last wrap-up comments that you have, Cameron?
Well, I'd like to thank Harry for literally being an eloquent voice for persons with dementia, because he's absolutely spot on in everything he was saying. It's much more powerful coming from him, these words, these ideas, than from either you or me. And we need to first talk to persons with dementia. Second, we've got to listen to them. And when we start doing that, that'll be a really powerful force and energy towards changing our perspectives and creating a more enabling society.
I agree. I totally agree. Now, Cameron, the best way for people to get a hold of you is to go to the website or else to email you. Is that correct?
Right. And you can email me at Cameron, Cameron, and then the @ sign, and then our address again, cen4ard.com.
And that's the number 4 in there,
yes.
Not spelled out. Or and there you'll be able to find your book as well, Hiding the Stranger in the Mirror. You'll be able to find different videos that you have instructional videos as well as this one on the Alzheimer Syndrome. It looks like you've got some instructional videos on asking the person, giving choice, slowing down, and I'm not sure what a different visit is. Can you explain what a different visit is?
Yeah, a different visit is how to have a good visit with a person with dementia,
okay.
How to have it be activity-based and meaningful. So we have a free video on that on our YouTube channel, and then there's a corresponding book that goes with that was actually based on a study funded by the Alzheimer's Association. It's also called A Different Visit, and the book with ideas for activities on how to have a better visit is available through the website.
Okay. And I've always found for me personally, with my mom who had dementia for 30 years was having the visit be multisensory. If it's music, if it's touch, if it's smell, if it's taste, but engaging all, as many things as possible was always helpful. And for both of us,
and also
not just her.
And also how to have the person be able to help other people. For example, one of the activities is how to let the person with dementia lead a toy drive. For instance, for children of women in a women's shelter. And so you put up, you have a collection bins, you have the signs, and then you collect the toys, you wrap them, and then you go on a visit together to the children. They give them the toys. That's a different kind of visit.
Yep, wonderful. Well, Cameron and Harry, I thank you both for being with us. Cameron, thank you so much for making this video, the Alzheimer Syndrome. Again, I think everybody should take a peek at it. I think it'll get you thinking, in terms of how, what are your perceptions and how do you view the world and how does that affect your reaction? And I think that's, to me, the biggest key is, we set things, we categorize things, and we go, okay, if they're A, then there's B and C, and, it's just the way we connect the dots and approach things, and maybe it's not the best approach for anyone involved, and seriously needs to be readjusted, and, get back to Cameron on what your thoughts are after watching that video, too. Or you can always go to our blog and make a comment there on the Alzheimer Speaks blog for the radio show. I also put the video out there for people to be able to watch, but we always love to hear what someone's thoughts are, and maybe they've got another angle out there to help change perceptions as well. Well, I hope it's not another year before we have you on and hear what you're up to. You're always doing great things, Cameron. So again, thank you so much. And Harry, thank you for being with us as well. You always add so much to the program. So thank you both.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just wrap up with some more announcements. Our next show is going to be on the 14th, and we're going to have Patrick Talley with us, and he's going to be talking about technology and how that can make a difference when working with people with dementia. And he's got some cool things he's doing. Our last show you can still listen to was called Cracked, The New Light on Dementia, and that was a play done in Canada. And then we also talked about memory and Alzheimer's cafes here in the U.S. On July 14th, we'll be once again doing our Dementia Chats, which starts at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 Central, 1 Mountain, and noon Pacific, and that's 8 o'clock if you're over in London. Our last one can be viewed if you go to Alzheimer Speaks, to the About page. You'll be able to find our Dementia Chats there. But that one we had a great conversation about how people with dementia communicate and why and how they can be misinterpreted. We talked about emotional filters and the feeling of urgency due to the disease, and it really being kind of a private time bomb that they're living with. We also discussed how government organizations and individuals alike need more education to understand those with dementia. On the blog, you will find a few articles. One was from the fourth called Celebrating Independence No Matter What Our Circumstances. On June 28th, I just noted some information about Wisconsin's Healthy Brain Initiative has a great new toolkit for becoming dementia friendly. On the 25th, there was an article about the 6 surprising health benefits from gardening. And we also noted on the 25th the Kickstarter program for the Global Symbol for Dementia, the Purple Angel documentary. And then I do want to still mention, because we've had so many people comment on this, the show that we did on dementia farms or care farms. And so on June 23rd, we posted not only the show that we did on that, but a lot of additional information, and people really, truly enjoyed that quite a bit and got them very excited about looking at things a little different. Last, I'm just going to announce that again tomorrow, July 8th at 6:30 p.m., Dr. James Donahue of the New England Clinical Trials will be giving a presentation on Alzheimer's disease and clinical trials at Ocean View Retirement Communities in Falmouth, Maine, and refreshments and tours of the Legacy Memory Care will follow that presentation. Keep in mind that it's free, but space is limited, so you will want to RSVP, and you can do that by calling 201-781-4460. That's 201-781-4460. In the meantime, have a wonderful, wonderful week. And if you know of someone who has dementia, or maybe you're living with it yourself, check out the Alzheimer's team on Facebook. You might want to become part of a clinical trial, or you can go to alzheimerspeaks.com on our homepage and just scroll down, and then look on the right-hand side. There's a little questionnaire, and you can find out. There's a survey there. You can find out if you'll comply with the study regulations or not. But it's a great way to really have an impact and change research, at no cost, and help the battle and help people dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. So thanks again, everybody. You have a wonderful week, and I'm hoping that you also had a safe and fun holiday weekend. Bye now.
Well, hi, I'm Lori LeBay, and I wanted to tell you about Alzheimer Speaks, which is another great podcast. You see, my own mother lived with dementia for 30 years, and I felt lost. Did you know every 3 seconds someone in the world is being diagnosed with dementia? Odds are it's going to hit your families too. We want to help you connect to services, products, tools, research, and stories so you can be prepared. Please subscribe to Alzheimer Speaks on your favorite podcast platform.